This is Ed Robinson of Kensington College, continuing our lessons on ExcelVBA. We're continuing on with Chapter 4. We're going to talk about summing some values according to their colour. What we're going to do, therefore, is to colour some of these red and some of them blue, and then we'll sum the red ones and sum the blue ones. So I'll start off by making some of them red. If I just perhaps use the format painter, I should have double clicked on that, and just make a couple of them, some of them red, and we'll now make some of them blue, but the types of blue that we've got can be different, so I'll choose this one and see how that works out. Let's see, I think that's, yeah, you need to be able to see this. You might not be able to see this on the YouTube video, but I've made that one blue. I think, let's see if, okay, I'll try, no, this is a dark blue. You have to maybe take my word for it. So I'm going to double click on Format Painter and make the rest of those blue. It's not showing up very well. I think I'll go back and try a different blue so you might be able to see it better. Okay, so I'll now use that color and double click and get the Format Painter and paint these ones blue. So now we've got they're either red or blue and nothing else. Now, as far as the coding is concerned, we really need to be able to determine whether they are red, what the actual font color index is, the color of the cell. So I'll start off with my code editor, and I want to determine what each color is. So if we try this selection, which is where I'm going to click somewhere, and then the font object color index is the index of the cell. So if I now click the command button, you see that, if you can see that, it says 3. That's the color red is represented by the color index of red is 3, and I'll click on the blue, any blue, and it tells me, well, that's a little bit unusual, 37. I think I might put that in there as a reminder to myself, which is what the two colors are. So the next thing I want to do is to loop through the cells. I'll just comment that for the moment just to keep that. So I need to first thing, dim I as integer, which is going to be our loop variable, and we'll start off with a for loop for I equals 1, 2. Now, how many cells have I got here? I've got 8 cells, so I equals 1 to 8, and then I'm going to do the next I before I forget it. So, and what I could do is iterate through each of those cells. Before I do that, I want to define my range here. This looks like range A1 to A8. So I need to, I should make a variable to hold that particular range. Press the end key to take me to the end, and I want to put the range, some sort of range variable equal to that, and then I'll dim RNG as a range. Now, it capitalized it before, but once I redim things, when I dim things here, it sorts it out automatically for me. Now, so now there's something which is missing here, and it's something which you'll always forget, I think, and that's to use the word set. Whenever you have a range object, you use the word set. So why don't we first of all just message box out each of the values as we come across them. So we're going to message box the now we want cells I full stop value, but don't forget we're going to have to do that relative to this range. So if I therefore use the range variable with a full stop, and you can see cells comes up there, so we're on the right track, and we should be able to, I'll just indent that as well, so we should be able to message box out just the values as we go down. So if we try that, you can see that the individual cells. What I might try and do is to, just for illustration purposes, we might like to just select the cells as we go down. So if I just say range such and such here, full stop, select, and that should capitalize. You know that we didn't get any IntelliSense for cells, which is a bit annoying. That's because it's sort of related to the, as I've explained before, is related to the range object, which you'll get IntelliSense. But cells is a property which returns a range object, and unfortunately it just doesn't show you the properties and methods after you type a full stop. Anyway, we can live with that for the moment. But now if we run the code, we should find that not only does it message box the value, but you can see here that it's showing the selecting the cell as we go down, which is fine for illustration purposes. Keep in mind what we're trying to do. We're trying to add up the red ones and add up the blue ones separately. But for the moment, what we might do is just message box the cell if it's red. So we're going to need an if statement. So in here we could say if the cells, the range now, this we could just control drag this up here, if that's equal to, if it's going to be red, for example, it's going to be the font color index, I should say. I can just take that from here. The font color index is 3. I'll just put a reminder to myself here that it's red. And then if it's equal to, now my golden rule is that always use the word then after you used an if. So I need to have an end if here. Now if I run the code, you'll see that it selects the red cell and then message box out the red ones only. But keep in mind what we're trying to do. We're trying to add up the red ones, so I think we're going to need a variable to hold the addition. So I'll call it sum red, like that, and it's going to be, for the moment it's an integer, but we should have really made it a double, I guess, if we're because we have decimal numbers as well, but let's say they're all integers for the moment. So what we need to do therefore is to, well, what I will do is to just make sure I set this value to 0 before I forget. Not that I need to, because it'll be 0 by default, but it's better, it makes your code more readable and perhaps a bit more rigorous. Now I'm going to select the cell, but this time instead of message boxing out the value, I'm going to, now what am I going to do? I'm going to add them up, so that I'm going to take the value of sum red and put it equal to, equal to what? It's got something to do with this, hasn't it? Because that's the actual value of that red cell. So let me just drag this up for the moment, and I'll just get rid of, or perhaps I'll just move that, I'll get rid of it for the moment and come back to that. Now it's, what we want to do is to make a running total. So at the moment that's just putting the value here into here as we go. So you've got 34 will be put in, 34 will be put in, 56 will be put in, 21 will be put in. But that's not what we want. We want to make a running total to add them up. So with a bit of trickery we can just say that sum red is sum red plus this value here. So that each value, individual value, is added on to the previous value to give you a running total. And I guess we could then message box out the value of sum red to see if the answer is correct or not. Now I'll just tab that in. I like tabbing stuff, and there we go. And that code looks as if it should work. So if I run the code, it gives me a total of red ones, which looks about right, I think. 145 is the addition of all the reds. So we don't really need this line in here, but I might just run it down using a breakpoint down here just to illustrate how it's working. So if I now run this, it's going to select the first cell. I'll press F8 and it shows you that that value is 34, and so the value here, sometimes it's a bit tricky to put your mouse onto it. There we go, that should give, no, I can't pick it up. Oh, I can pick this up. 34 is my running total at the moment. Now if I now press the F8 key, it's going to go around again, but only I has got the value of 2 this time, and it will jump over the loop, so to speak, over the if statement. But now I has got the value of 3, so it should jump into this cell here and select it, which it does. Okay, and now sum red, the previous value is 34. It's going to add on the next 34 and make a total of 68, as you can see, and that continues around, and we'll jump down to the next red cell and then so on, and continually add on the bits that it finds and makes a grand total of 145. So I think I'll dispense with this selection each time, and keep in mind what we're trying to do. We're trying to add the red and also add the blue. So I'll use another if statement. We could use a select case, but I'll use if and just paste that into there to duplicate that. Now if set it equals, now this time we're looking for the blue ones, so, and we'll look on my spreadsheet here to remind me that it was 37 was the blue. So, and I need another variable up here by the look of it, so I'll say, I'll just bring that down so you can see it. That's a dim there. A dim sum red as integer, comma, I'll need to dim the sum blue as an integer as well. And therefore I'll just change, therefore this change, I'll copy that down, and I'm going to say that sum blue this time is sum blue plus the value of the cell, that's to say if it's blue. So I need really, say, another message box, or I could concatenate the result in here. I might just do that. Sum red ampersand, I'll put a space, don't forget to, otherwise they'll just be up against each other. Sum red plus sum blue, and drag that down, and another ampersand to add together that bit of text. So now when I run the code, you should see the 145 is the sum of the reds, and the 109 you can just see is the sum of the blues. You could embellish that with a message box saying the sum of this is 45, and, which might be a good idea, and the sum of that is 109. But that's essentially how to loop through and discriminate and add different values. So if you're following along the course, here's an exercise to do. We have numbers which are colored red and blue as before, and the requirement is to sort them. So you'll have the red ones and the blue ones. Doesn't matter about the order, you can have the blue first, but to separate them into two lots like that. So we're sorting by color. This is a feature of Excel 2007 onwards now, but when this book was written, we didn't have that feature of sort by color. But in any case, it's quite a useful exercise, I think.